Hi Kayla, my name's Hannah. I'm going to be doing an interview with you today. So if you have any questions or concerns, do you want to let me know? Do you have any issues you want to voice right now?
Not right now.
Okay, perfect. Then we're going to get started if that's okay. So first of all, could you tell me who's in your family?
The members of my family, my immediate family include just my mom right now. I do have an extended family that includes like aunts and uncles and cousins. And then I also have some friends that I include within my family.
Okay. Do you live with any extended family members such as grandparents, cousins, aunts, or uncles?
No, I do not.
Do you live with anybody who is not biologically related to you?
Yes, I currently live with three people that are not biologically related to me. Two of them are good friends, and then I also live with a significant other.
Okay. Do you consider them family?
Yes.
Okay. Would you describe your parents' relationship and how it affected your upbringing?
My parents had a really strong relationship growing up. They were always married. They were married before I was born, and then they had me several years later. But they had a really strong relationship, very loving. They were always like equals as partners. They got along for the most part. Um, they had a good relationship.
Do you have any siblings?
I do not have any siblings.
Do you currently have a significant other?
I do have a significant other. I have a boyfriend that I've been dating. I dated him back in high school, and then I started dating him again. There was some gap during our relationship.
Do you feel safe in your relationship?
Yes, I do.
What are some healthy traits that are in your relationship?
We always are like willing to take care of each other, and we're pretty good about like sharing like responsibilities like within our relationship as far as like financial or like household tasks because we live together or um, we just like to have fun, and I think overall we get along really well.
Okay. What would you say your sexual orientation is?
I would consider myself straight.
Okay. What sort of role have you taken in your family? For example, have you ever taken care of an elderly family member?
I kind of right now I've always been a caretaker within my family. My mom is kind of declining in health right now, so I'm a caretaker for her. She doesn't depend on me for care, but she definitely needs some assistance. And then I've also taken care of my elderly grandparents before on both sides of the family. On my mom's side, more recently, I was taking my grandmother to like health appointment, like just like stuff like health appointments within the cities or their area. And then also, when my grandfather was starting to get iller, I was at their house pretty frequently because I wasn't going to school full time. I was doing PSEO, I was doing college classes, so I had a lot of free time, so I helped them out quite a bit.
Okay. Is there anybody that's in your family who's adopted?
Yeah, my mom is adopted along with her three siblings.
Okay. Is there a primary provider in your household?
I would say growing up, my dad was the primary provider within my household. My mom also worked, but he was kind of the main breadwinner, I would say. They worked equal, but he always made more money. And then currently, my mom is the main primary provider, I guess, in my household. But again, I also consider myself kind of separate household. So then for myself, my own family, which is kind of just me, sort of, I'm the primary provider.
Okay.
So it kind of has changed over time.
Okay. Who takes care of the children, so you, when you were ill, when you were younger? Was it your mom, your dad, someone else?
I would say that my mom was more of like a child caretaker, like for me personally. But my parents are pretty good about splitting it. It kind of depended on what their work schedules were. So like when he worked nights, I didn't really go to any like childcare. They just like kind of flip flop caretaking. And then as I got older, when my dad started working days, he worked later hours. So then my mom was like, the one to come pick me up from childcare, school, etc. But she was definitely more of like the loving, caring, but he was more of like the fun parent that like you would go to like sports with, or so like kind of had different parental roles.
Okay. Would you describe, I guess you did a little bit, but would you describe yourself and your role in your family?
Currently, I guess I'm a caretaker. Um, I don't know. We kind of now that there's just two of us, we kind of just like divvy up roles, like whatever needs to be done, or kind of wherever I guess I see some lacking, I try to like help out and whatever it is.
Okay. When you were younger, did the women in your family have different responsibilities than the men?
Um, in my like nuclear family, it was pretty equal, but within like my extended family, like within my grandparents, like my grandmother, she was always like a homemaker and a wife, and then she also had a small business, and then my grandfather was like the main provider. He owned a farm, so he was kind of like watching over other people. Like, he was all in his business and stuff, and she was more so like family oriented.
Okay. If you had your family divided into two teams, who would be on what team and why?
My family would actually just be one team.
Okay.
Just like if it was like me and my mom and my dad, we all just would have been on one team. There wouldn't be any division or anything. We're
Okay.
just like our own little pod.
What sort of rules does your family have? Do these rules change? Do these rules change for different members? Are there any rules that apply to your family as a whole?
um, I don't know. I kind of talked about how the rules were, but I guess there's not that many rules since there's so few people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Do any boundaries exist within your family?
what do you mean by boundaries?
I guess, is there any limitations to the connection that you feel like you have with your family members, or is there any certain members that you wouldn't go to for certain things, either emotionally or physically?
Yeah, I do have some boundaries with some of my like extended family members, just like based on like their personal beliefs and values or even religion I don't particularly align with. So I just kind of I'm courteous to them, but I don't really go to them for anything. Um, I don't find them to be like positive people within my life, so I just kind of avoid them. I don't know.
Okay. Who would you say would make the decisions in your family?
Um, my parents were pretty equal about making decisions, but I think my mom always had like the final say. Like, she was the one that was like, all right, I get like it's like the president's stamp of approval. Like, it always had to be like her final decision, but it was pretty equal.
Okay.
I think even between like myself too, like between like my parents and I, it was always kind of like a group effort.
Okay, perfect. That's the end of external or internal structure, and we're going to start external structure now. So, who are your mom's parents? Adoptive, or if she knows her birth parents?
She doesn't know her birth parents. My grandparents adopted my mom when she was an infant. I'm not actually sure how old she was, but she was still fairly young. They both were like farmers. They had 3 other children that they had adopted previously to her because they couldn't conceive children. They had tried several times, but had no success. But they had a history of farming, so they needed to have children. So they adopted pretty locally, and they have 4 adopted children.
Okay. Do you have a close relationship with them?
Yeah, I would say I had a pretty close relationship with them. Some of them have moved further away, so that's kind of caused some distance between us. But the ones that are pretty close, I would say I have a close relationship, and they're a very close family, even though they're adopted. You have no idea, like, they're very close. Especially, I would say they were more close when my grandparents were alive.
Okay.
So they've passed away by now.
Okay. Are the 3 of your mom's siblings still alive?
Yes.
Okay. Are they older or younger than her?
They're all older than her, and her oldest brother is, I think they're 12 or 14 years apart. So there's kind of a big gap.
How's your relationship with them?
I would say I actually have closer relationships with their children, because their children would be my first cousins, and they're about 10 years or more older, and then even some of their children, my second cousins, I actually had very close relationships with them, almost like best friends growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of close. Not so much the older ones, because they were, like, I don't know. They didn't really seem like aunts and uncles to me. They felt kind of more like extended grandparents, and then their children felt more like aunts and uncles, because like they're like in their 30s to 50s now.
Okay.
So then their children were more my age, and we, all hung out, and we were all friends.
Sure.
Had a good time.
Okay. Who are your dad's parents?
My dad's parents are both passed away by now, but they were from Northfield, which is where I'm from. I believe he was like a factory worker and she was a secretary and a homemaker, I believe. For most of her life, I think she was a homemaker.
Okay. Would you say you had a close relationship with them when they were still alive?
I really didn't have too close a relationship with my paternal grandparents. They were severely ill most of my life. They both had cancer.
Okay.
So I wasn't very close with them, and there were some distant tensions between my father and them.
Okay. Did your dad have any siblings?
He had one brother, but he had passed away due to some complications when he was only a few days old.
Okay. Would you say you're still close to any of your relatives?
On my dad's side?
On either side.
I'm really close on my mom's side with some of the people. I mean, since I've been in Mankato, it's hard to go home and visit quite as often, and we don't get together as much since my mom's parents have passed away, just because we don't have that kind of meeting space, sort of. But I was never really close to my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
I don't know, just wasn't.
Do you have any relatives that you never see?
Yeah, my dad's side of the family, I never really see them ever.
Okay. Would you ever do anything to change this?
No.
Okay.
I'm content with how our relationship is.
Okay. What did your father do for a living?
My dad was a forklift driver for most of my life, and before that, I think he was just doing other labor jobs.
Okay. Did his job have any positive or negative effects on his health?
I would say his job probably had negative effects on his health. I think he worked pretty long hours. I know he worked nights at some points, and he had to stand for the whole portion of his day.
Okay. Wow.
So kind of some hard work. I know a lot of times he had calluses on his hands. He always had like really worn out work boots. Like kind of a more difficult labor job. That was in like a glass factory.
Okay.
So kind of dangerous. I mean, sometimes pallets would fall, sometimes they would get injuries, but usually not too often.
Okay. What does your mother do for a living?
My mom works in I don't even know how to describe it, but she works in a factory she works with chemicals.
Okay.
Actually, she mixes chemicals for different like technological companies. They like make the little parts and microchips and all the ink for computer chips and all. I don't even know what she does.
Okay. Does she enjoy her job?
I don't say my mom enjoys her job, but I think she's worked there since she was 18 years old, so she has really high job security there, and she's really well established within that position, and she's moved up quite a bit. And her current position, she actually would need a college degree at this point. Like in our era, she would need a college degree to do what she does. So I think she's content with like how long she's been there, and she knows the knowledge, and she knows all the people, and she knows like the ins and outs. But I think she isn't satisfied with like the type of work she does because it's in a factory.
Okay.
And there's kind of some I don't know if she sees it as much, but I see like the health side of it and how it affects her health.
Okay. How would you say it affects her health?
So she works with like a lot of toxic chemicals. I've been to where she works, and I noticed that there's a lot of chemicals everywhere, and I feel like the like daily exposure to that is not good for like your respiratory system or your skin. Like I've seen like her get chemicals on her skin, and like you can see it like physically stain the skin, or just like really long hours again, standing, lifting, and she also has osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. So. Kind of hazardous to her health, and she recently just had a fall because she kind of has some unsteady balance.
Okay.
So that's kind of a health hazard, I guess, her work is.
Okay. How would you say that all those risks and everything have affected you and her's relationship?
I don't know, I guess it has both positives and negatives. I've become closer to her through like her becoming more I guess increased in age and decreased in physical ability. So I guess we've come closer in that sense, but it also like causes stress because our relationship has changed, and it's kind of she's no longer taking care of me. I'm kind of taking care of her. So that's kind of difficult.
Okay. So that is the end of the external section, and now we're moving into context. So would you describe the neighborhood that you grew up in?
I grew up in, I would say a small town. Some people don't say small town, but a small town, friendly neighborhood. There was lots of children and also elderly people within my neighborhood, so it's really safe. I never would really think twice about anything bad happening there.
Does your family still live there?
Yeah, my mom still owns the house that I grew up in. She lived there prior to my parents getting married, and then my dad actually moved in there because she was a homeowner before she got married. She's kind of like a go-to woman, like, I don't need a man. Like, she was pretty independent then, but she still owns that house. I think we do have plans to sell it because I would like to get her into a one-level home for safety reasons.
Okay. How different would you say that the neighborhood you grew up in is different from where you currently live?
Where I currently live is in college student-based apartments, so there is some crime. A lot of it's related to underage drinking or even of-age drinking. I live in an apartment, as before I lived in just like a home, just like a regular home, and I live in an apartment with people that I'm not biologically related to, so sometimes there's kind of differences in tension. And the neighborhood can sometimes be very loud, and there's like a lot of theft, which is kind of frustrating.
Okay. What would you say the educational status is of your family?
I would say my family has low education status. My parents have some college, mostly technical college, but really that's as far as it goes. I will be the first person in my family to receive a college degree.
Okay. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's different. It's exciting, I guess, yeah.
How would you describe the economic status of your family? What class does your family fall under?
I would say that my family has always been middle class. Never rich, never poor. We always had plenty of food. I've always had a house over my head, or a roof over my head. I also had the privilege to go to private schools for some time. So, I mean, my family is not rich, but not poor in it by any means.
Okay.
Always having enough money to get what we need and, a little extra.
How would you describe your ethnicity?
That's a difficult question for me, actually. I don't know my ethnicity, so I don't have an answer for that, really, because my mom's adopted, and then on my dad's side, it's kind of a mixed bag, so.
Okay. Like a mixed pot.
I grew up with Czech culture because that was the ethnicities of my grandparents, of my mom's adoptive parents. So I grew up with a really strong Czech culture, actually.
Okay.
So I identify with them, but I like when people are like, oh, what's your identity, or like, what's your like ethnicity or race? I don't really have an answer. I'm just like, I can't really tell you.
Okay. Is your family religious?
I grew up with a strong Catholic background, so I would say my family's religious. I am not as religious as my family members. I did grow up with that background, but I'm not like an active member within the Catholic Church at this point.
Okay. How would you say your religious beliefs differ from your family's? You said that you're not quite as religious as they are. Could you extend on that a little bit?
I don't currently go to church, or I mean I still believe within that religion, but I'm not an active member in the sense where I would go to church or participate in a religious community or anything. I am more so on the sense of spirituality rather than religion at this point in my life.
Okay. What would you say health means to you and your family?
I don't know.
I guess you talked a little bit about your mom and her job and how that's been kind of a health risk. What would you say that you would like to do to kind of intervene with that, or what would be something you would like to change about that?
I guess my family actually hasn't had a huge emphasis on health ever, growing up, nutritionally, or, I mean, kind of, but like I was never like forced to like be in sports. I mean, like I was really active as a kid, but
Mm-hmm.
both my parents like smoked, they drank, so I mean, like health hasn't really always been like the main focus of my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for me, I would like to get my mom more like health focused. But I think she kind of thinks like, oh, I'm already like this old, it's too late for me type of
Mm-hmm.
deal.
Okay. Do you think you would have any difference with like a different money situation if that had an effect on your health at all?
I don't really think money like affected my health that much. I mean, obviously, like I was able to meet my nutritional needs and my like
Mm-hmm.
shelter needs and all of that. But I don't think any like, I mean, I guess like gaining money, I
Mm-hmm.
guess losing money would definitely decrease your health, but I don't think increasing in any money would really change my family's health status. I think it's just like a matter of like behaviors
Mm-hmm.
or just like overall beliefs.
Okay.
I think my family just has like I don't know what to describe it as.
I kind of understand what you're going for.
I don't know what to describe it. It's just like their attitudes and beliefs, but I don't think like money really had any effect
Okay.
on it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Sounds good. Do you think you have enough privacy where you live?
I mean, I share with 3 roommates, so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't feel like I do, but yeah, I would say I would have enough. I have enough privacy, you know, I have my own room and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a reliable form of transportation?
Yes, I do.
Do you ever have problems with attending class or school?
I have in the past for medical reasons, but I don't currently.
Okay. Have you always felt safe at home?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're done with that portion, and now we're moving on to functional assessment, the instrumental functioning. So, can you start off by walking me through what a typical day would be for you?
A typical day includes waking up, just kind of relaxing in bed for a little while, planning out my day in my head. I get up, I usually take a shower, depending on how early it is. You know, take a shower, eat some breakfast, get ready for school, go to school for however long that day requires, come home, do some homework, do either some exercise, meditation, hang out with my roommates, whatever the stress reliever activity is for the day, and then kind of chill out and go to bed.
Okay. Can you describe your eating habits for me?
I currently have pretty poor eating habits, just due to time constraints and money constraints currently. I would say I kind of just eat whenever I get the time.
Mm-hmm. Do you eat breakfast?
Some days, not every day. Depends.
Do you ever skip meals?
I do. I'm a really bad meal skipper.
Do you prepare most of your meals at home, or do you tend to eat out?
I would say I prepare either like buy it somewhere, like not like buy prepared food, like but I'll buy like I'll go to Quick Trip and I'll buy like an apple and a banana and a juice or whatever, and then that'll be like my little breakfast. But I would say I prepare most stuff at home, eating out occasionally.
Okay. What are your sleeping patterns like?
I have really terrible sleeping patterns. I don't really sleep that much, either just due to stress or just inability to fall or stay asleep.
Okay. Do you take any medications daily?
I do take one medication.
Okay. How does this affect your daily life?
This medication actually improves my daily life. I take an antidepressant, and it actually really helps with mood and attention and waking up. And you definitely can tell when you miss a dose, but it definitely helps.
Okay. Are you able to perform all your day-to-day tasks independently?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any family members that require assistance in day-to-day functioning?
I don't have any family members that require assistance in day-to-day functioning, but I do go and check in with my mom and make sure, you know, she has all the things she needs for, like, food, and, you know, there's, I know, like, when it's, like, holiday season, I have to help her put up the Christmas tree, or just, like, helping out with little tasks that she has some more, like, difficulty with, like, physically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're done with that portion, and now we're moving on to expressive functioning. Would you say your family is emotionally healthy?
Yes.
What qualities about your family make you say so?
I'm able to like share emotions with my family and talk about things that sometimes are difficult with us. Um, I think I don't know. I know that I always have like somebody there for me if I need like assistance with anything, whether it be like emotional assistance, physical assistance, like financial assistance. I know that I will always have somebody that like if I call my mom at any like point and I was like I need you for such and such, like I know she will be there. Like if that means she needs to drive to Mankato right now, like she would do it. So that's like one thing that I'm like very fortunate for is I have like I know that I can always like rely on her.
Okay. Would you say she's a person that you turn to if you have like an emotional distress or something?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the issue. It just like some things she like isn't quite so understanding about, and other things she's really understanding. So it kind of depends like whatever the issue is.
Okay. How does your family handle conflict?
Usually we like sit down and just talk it out until like we're done, like with like whatever the topic is. It depends. Like sometimes it's easy to talk it out. Sometimes like it will be like a while and we'll have to sit and talk and talk and talk until we finally feel like there's some sort of solution.
Okay. Do you think your family leans on each other for hard times, or do you deal with your grief separately?
It's really like the both extremes. At times we really strongly rely on each other, but at other times we're very like independent. I know with the grief of my father, we grieved very differently in that aspect. So we kind of did our grieving on our own with his death, but we'd still talk about it.
Okay.
We just handle it in very different ways.
Sure. How do you connect with your family members back at home when you're away at school, and how often do you visit home?
I would say I go home probably at least 3 times a month. So almost every week I go home, even just for like a short amount of time. If not, I'm always like calling or in text contact with my mom.
Okay. How does your family go about solving problems? Is there a certain process that you go to during this?
Like I said, we usually just sit down and talk about it.
Okay. How is punishment delegated in your family?
I wasn't really punished that much as a kid. I honestly wasn't really a bad kid at all, so I never really like needed punishment. So.
Okay. How does your family protect one another? Can you name a time or give an example of when you felt protected by your family's actions?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay, that's okay. Do you usually turn to your family or to your friends during times of hardship?
It kind of depends what the hardship is, but I would say at this point in my life I turn more towards my friends.
Okay. How does your family encourage one another? Who's the biggest cheerleader, if you would have to pick one?
My mom's my biggest cheerleader. She always has been. She shows up for everything. She's always the one that's going to be there. Any, like, important event or any, like, big moment in my life, she's always been there, like, you know, cheering me on. She's always, like, been my number one.
Okay. Perfect. Now we're going to move on into some beliefs. So, what sort of values do you think you hold close to you?
Some values that I hold close to me, I guess, were values that I grew up with, like, as a kid, you know, being honest, treating others as, like, you want to be treated. I hold, like, my education as, like, a high value to me personally. Just, like, watching, like, how some of my family members have struggled due to lack of education, how that's like affected them financially and how it's affected their children and where they live. And also family is a pretty strong value for me too.
Okay.
Always making sure that you're there for the people that really need you.
Okay. How do you think your beliefs and your spirituality differs from your family's?
With my extended family, I have some beliefs that differ, just like on like issues of like race, sex, gender, etc. I have some beliefs that differ from them. They're not always as welcoming and open to certain ideas as I would like them to be. But I would say within my main family structure, we have pretty similar values, me and my mom.
Okay. What is the impact on your family history of cancer? How does that change your life? How does that change your day-to-day activities?
So both my grandparents, they had lung cancer, and both my parents were also smokers, and I'm now currently seeing the effects of how that cancer and even just the effects of watching my parents smoke has had on me. I mean, I never smoked when I was under 18. I have smoked tobacco before, obviously, but I actually waited to smoke tobacco until I was of age.
Okay.
So I truly avoid tobacco smoke, and I kind of watched what their health decisions and how those kind of played out in their lives, and I kind of want to not make those same health decisions, like working in a factory due to low education, smoking, drinking, etc.
All right, so we're done with that part. We have one more to go, the developmental assessment. So focusing on attachment, you stated throughout the interview that the bond that you share with your mother is pretty strong. How close do you think the bond was with your father?
I was actually really close with my father. I had two very different relationships with my mother and father. My dad was more of like a playful relationship. You know, we would always like joke and play games. We were always like very physically active. We would like go on like bike rides together. He is a lot more like open and laid back than my mom, so you could really go to him with anything and he would be like really like understanding, or he would have a funny story for you to tell you about like how something in his like earlier years related. So I actually had a really open, honest, I had a really good relationship with my father.
Okay. All right, now focusing a little bit about moving out. Trying to figure out where to start for this one. So, how has moving out of the house and away from home changed you?
I have become more independent since moving out of my home. I was pretty independent beforehand, but I think I've gained even more independent skills as an adult. When my dad passed away, it was kind of just me and my mom, and I was also like working and taking college classes, so I was already sort of independent in that sense, but actually moving out on my own, like fully preparing all my meals, you know, like making sure that all the bills are paid and all that stuff. So I've gained even more independence, and I've learned more about myself since moving out of my parents' home.
Okay. How are you establishing yourself as an adult and in your community?
I guess right now, I'm establishing myself as an adult by currently getting a higher education and working towards pursuing a career in nursing.
Okay. How has moving out changed your value in friendship?
I guess I've considered my friends more so my family now since I've moved out, since I've kind of broken off from like my biological family structure, and you kind of get submerged into like a friend family where your friends become your family, your support, people, you know, that you sit and watch movies with, you might go out for a drink with. They're your true support. They're your family here at MSU.
Okay. How happy have you been so far with your decision to come to Mankato?
I think I made a really good decision coming to Mankato. It's taught me a lot about myself, and I think I picked a really good school and a great program.
Okay. How has your family and friends supported you since you've been down here?
Well, everyone was really supportive about my decision to come to MSU. They all really like the town, the city. They're supportive within my like career choice. People, you know, they always like offer me words of encouragement whenever I'm like down, or even like when I achieve successes. They're always there, you know, kind of cheering me on.
Perfect. All right, that's concluding our interview.